Hey everyone, I'm here in Portland, Oregon, and I'm going to show you some examples of modal filters and diverters. These are pretty cool infrastructure installations that restrict movements on a street only for certain modes of transportation. So the ones I'm going to show you in this video are all going to restrict car movements while allowing full access for bikes and pedestrians. So in the context of Portland, they use modal filters and diverters to create what they called neighborhood greenways, which are essentially long stretches of street that are designated as bike routes. And with these modal filters and diverters, they can limit the amount of through traffic on the street to the point where it becomes very safe to bike on the street without actually having to install a bike lane. So if you think about what makes a street not so great for biking on, it's the speed of cars and it's the volume of cars. So if you have a way to make the street discontinuous and no longer a through street for cars, then it will be less likely that cars are going to drive on the street, and only the people driving on it are people that live there or have business there. So that solves the volume problem, and then you can just put in some typical traffic calming elements to solve the speed problem, and you've created a great neighborhood greenway for biking. Starting off here at Flanders Street, we have a pretty textbook modal filter. So what this does, it allows pedestrians to continue using the sidewalk just as normal, plus they have a new median island to cross between. You'll see the green areas on either side are specifically for bikes, so that will allow bikes to enter and exit the street. But because this big median is here, cars will not be allowed to enter or exit the street. So the block that we're looking at right now is essentially a dead-end street for cars, and the only reason cars would be on that block is to access those businesses. In the other direction, Flanders Street is a neighborhood greenway, so you'll have more of these treatments up and down the street. But again, this is not a very viable through street for cars anymore because you cannot continue all the way down towards where the highway is. So this is essentially a three-way intersection for cars, and it also limits the amount of through traffic behind me as well. One thing to note while we're talking about modal filters and diverters like these is that they're not banning cars from the street or anything like that. Cars are still able to fully access everything on this block and everything on that block. It's just you can't use this specific intersection as an access point. You have to come in from over there or come in from over there, right? So it's actually kind of a compromise solution, right? The ultimate modal filter would be one that just prohibits cars entirely from a block, and we're going to look at one of those later. But this just allows permeability for bikes and pedestrians and just limits car traffic and forces car drivers to choose a different route if they want to have a through route through town to lower the amount of volume on this street specifically. At this intersection, we have a one-way modal filter, so similar to the one I just showed, but it allows traffic to exit the intersection, but only allows bikes to go in. So same idea, it lowers the through traffic volume of the street because it makes the street discontinuous, at least in this direction. One thing you could do is pair that up with an identical one on this side, but in the opposite direction. And that will essentially achieve what the modal filter from before did, but across both sides of the intersection. This is more of a quick build installation. I think I have a permanent one to show later. And what we've got here is pretty much the ultimate modal filter. I believe this used to be a road, and it was just completely torn out and turned into a big pedestrian area with a through bike route. So on this neighborhood greenway, this just allows full access for pedestrians and bikes, and car drivers have to go around the block. This is a nice new public space to provide access and prioritize pedestrians and bikes on this route. At this intersection, we have a median diverter, and it appears to be a quick build installation, and it's not doing so great. So I'll put up a photo of an actual full build median diverter I saw in Denver so you can get the idea. But I really like these. If you're on the greenway side, again, it allows pedestrians and bikes full access all the way through. If the median has some width to it, it actually acts as a pedestrian refuge island if it's 6 to 8 feet wide, so it helps with pedestrian safety as well. But again, if you're on the greenway side, pedestrians and bikes can go through, but cars will have to make a right turn. So you see the sign up there, no through or left. If you're on the greenway side, it's a right only. If you're on the cross street, you can go through and turn right, but you can't turn left. So the median diverter actually helps with vehicle safety as well, because at intersections, left turns are some of the most dangerous maneuvers because you have to cross oncoming traffic. If you're not allowing lefts from any direction and you're creating this low traffic neighborhood greenway, it just increases safety for everyone. And maybe you force cars to make left turns at an actual signalized intersection down the road a little bit. So again, I love these. I think they're a great installation, even if you're not making a neighborhood greenway, just in general. As I was biking to the next location, I found another median diverter in a bit better condition, and it has some width to it, so it's acting as a pedestrian and bike median refuge island. So you can see more clearly here how that one would work. So again, no through or lefts for cars on this street, rights only. And if you're on this street, it's through or right only, no lefts. Here at this intersection is a nice permanent installation of the one-way diverters in a pair configuration. So sometimes we have bump outs at crosswalks to help shorten the crossing distance and daylight the crosswalk. These are essentially just bump outs expanded all the way across to cover an entire lane of travel. There is a small bike lane that allows access in for bikes, and that's just one lane coming out for cars with a that's a left only symbol because that's a one-way street. If it wasn't a one-way street, that would just be a left and right combined symbol. On this side, we got that right only with the bike lane in. So see here, it's basically a very large extended bump out. These look like they have been here for a while, right? So these aren't new ideas. Just sometimes people are scared to install them, right? Because anytime you restrict access for cars, it's suddenly a war on cars. Meanwhile, you have streets without sidewalks, you have bike lanes that just end at intersections, but that's not a war on pedestrians or a war on bikes. So, right, cars still have full access to everywhere on these streets, just have to change your route a little bit, and you create a really nice, safe intersection and low volume bike network in the process.